Arthur is a kids' TV show that has been around since the late 90s and it's still on to this day. It's one of the weirdest reality based TV shows that sets examples for kids. I grew up with it and still watch it on weekly days and mornings when I have no school. This story, though, will explain as to why it deterred me from buying old other VHS tapes episodes on tape. I have written a description of the episode a few years back and left it on my computer, and after much thought, I decided to release it. I wish the tape had survived long enough just for me to get some screenshots from it, but alas, the tape tore badly, and during the repairs, I lost all but 5 minutes of the episode. The tape was then brought to me by a second hand about a month ago, from my second normal media half-hand store, which is the Corner Store. For those who don't live in central Alberta, it's like an old music store that became a second-hand /book movie store about a month ago. I had bought almost 100 VHS tapes from him, which all worked fine, except for this one. I bought the tape because I'm trying to find the old episodes of Arthur again, to bring me back good memories of my childhood. I love the show and still watch it to this day. As you should know, they still make it, and the new ones are nothing to brag about. The animation looks even cheap and rather rushed. Also, the stories are often dull and focused on the mental illnesses in children, like the one about the kids with Asperger's, and the one focused on cancer. It feels out of place. The characters have changed. The bullies are now good guys, and Francie's even more of a bitch, and DW has no longer have moments that make her seem more than just a spoiled brat. The show had been ruined. The time to escape the mess, I went over to buy some old episodes on tape. Home recordings were in particular of interest, because I could see some of the old commercials that had aired at the time. I bought about $5 worth of the old tapes, each at 50 cents, and they all seemed fine, which was probably labeled with episode times, recording dates, and timestamps. The one that caught my eye was the title The Death of Grandma, recorded on March 5th, 1998, with a long timestamp 1524 lost the channel. It was an episode that I haven't known or eliminated that seemed to be almost too old to be trusted. I noticed the title has been written on it by a patch of whiteout. I decided scraping it off. Perhaps it was a recording of something in the people's lives. I decided to watch it first. The episode was the beginning of the opening of Arthur, and the theme song sounded a bit finny, probably due to bad recording equipment. The tape had issues which troubled me, mainly the tracking. I just couldn't get it to be stopped jumping and awkward to watch. I eventually gave up and leaving it the way it is, as a line of fuzz across the screen as I sat down. There was no episode or opening title of the episode. It showed Elwood City Hospital, something I wasn't very familiar with, and the sad music was playing. The only car in the parking lot was the Reeds. It then cut to Arthur and DW in the waiting room. Arthur was reading a Scare Your Pants Off book while DW pestered him about the story. The volume was bad and making it hard for me to listen to. I'll do my best to recreate what they were saying, though it's hard to remember. DW, why won't you play with me, Arthur? I'm bored. Why are we even here? Arthur, shut up, DW. I'm trying to read. The parents had came down the hall. The mom was crying. The dad looked shocked. DW ran up to them, asking why Arthur was ignoring her, but the dad told her to sit down. Arthur's dad, now kids, I'm afraid we won't be seeing Grandma Flora again. She's gone to a better place. He broke down into tears, as always. The voice acting was pretty good. Arthur dropped his book in shock and stared, and they just sat there, unmoving. The tape rippling static as the parents' crying could be looped over and over again. It then cut to them at home. The mom was talking on the phone, looking sad but acting professional. DW was just staring at the TV, but it was just a black screen. Baby Kate was just sitting there unmoving, and the dad was making a wedding cake, and his face was grim. The doorbell rang, and Arthur opened the door. It was Buster. Buster, hey, I heard about what happened. You want to go to the Sugar Bowl and talk? Arthur, sure. The shot of the Sugar Bowl appeared, but there was no music, only wind blowing. I noticed that it was fall in the episode as dead leaves were littering the ground. Arthur and Buster were sitting there, not talking, not moving. It reminded me of those still frames that sometimes appeared in the old TMNT cartoon. Buster spoke, but his mouth was just not moving the words at all. Buster, we should go do something fun to cheer ourselves up. Arthur just stared at him, eyes blinked, and then suddenly jumped to a funeral. Everyone was in black and there was no music, only crying. The casket was pure white draped in flowers. It showed Arthur, his face wet with tears, before the imagination cued sound came in. The casket opened instead of his Grandma Flora, but instead his mom, like it would be in the episode. Her face was heavy or wrinkled, like in the episode where DW got lost in the mall and was thinking about what life would be like without her. Her teeth were showing and the color was off, leaving them more yellow than white. Her eyes suddenly opened and they were not human, but rather black button eyes, like on Arthur's stuffed bear Stanley. He screamed and everyone vanished, leaving him alone in the church. The walls then fell in, exposing a red and black streaked sky. DW's laughter could be heard high and rapid, and there was even a loud banging sound and the images just stopped, and Arthur was just sitting there with his face pale. His mom was whispering something to Dad. DW was crying, and there was a single file line to the coffin. As Arthur got closer, you could hear a buzzing of the files. He swallowed as he wiped his eyes. The coffin lid was open. He looked in, and then there was a shot of his face. He was then enraged, and there was a flash of white that sounded like it was gone for a moment. Suddenly, they were in the car again, and the episode ended, and the commercials weren't anything really amazing. Just some ads for Chick-fil-A and KSPS. The next part that they did have the title, which is Recovery. It was written on a plain white background, and I could hear DW screaming, like the episode where Arthur punched her. Before the episode started up, the family was at home. It seemed like a continuation from the previous part. DW was in her room, slummily playing with her dolls, and her parents were reminiscing over the pictures, and Arthur was in his room. Pal soon came in and started barking at him, wanting to play. Arthur got up and kicked the dog. He kept kicking him, and the soundtrack now consists of Pal's yelps. Before slamming his door shut, Kate started crying. Arthur gritted his teeth, and then the scene faded out. The next scene showed it was nighttime as Arthur crept out of his room with his backpack on his shoulder. He walked past Pal, who whined and drew away, before grabbing his coat and sneaking out. He ran for a full 3 minutes, and the streets all in shadow. There was music, very soft tapping music that we all know from the show. That ended though when he ran into the graveyard. He then stopped at his grandma's grave, staring at it. There was an owl hooting sound as he started digging, crying out in pain as he did. His bare hands were soon slicked in red blood, and then stopped. Finding the coffin, he was crying out. The coffin opened and Arthur was inside it. His eyes were closed and his glasses were shattered. His family all gathered around, staring down and crying. Kate was also screaming, and for whatever reason, DW threw Pal in the open grave. Although the body was unmoving, there was still of him running. The scene then went black, and then there was a low sound that rose from the high chatter. It was the Tibbles laughing. The grave started to spin empty space and opening and sucking the void into it. I could hear DW yelling, "Kate did it!" over and over again, mixed with Pal's cries of pain. Stanley suddenly appeared, spiraling down for the blackness, and his head tore off. And of course, you get to see the cartoony organs, like from the episode where Arthur cuts his knee and started trailing out from his body. Well, there was a series of those, but it was more stuffing. And then it showed Arthur again, just sitting there, in the sugar bowl. Buster was unmoving on the floor beside the booth. His eyes were gone, and of course, his eyes started to stream blood, and Arthur screamed in rage. There was a few white flashes that showed him in prison, wearing the black and white clothing that the show always used. His face covered in the scars that they show on bad guys sometimes, and his last words were louder than before. "Arthur, I killed all of them. I beat out Kane's brains and stabbed DW. I killed my dog. My parents ate poison, but I didn't do it. She did it. Fora did it. She made me kill them." Then it went to the credits, and it was a normal cheery music. Stunned, I went to rewind the tape to see if I saw it was just real or was just a dream. When I tried to rewind the video, the tape seized up, and so I took the tape and just opened up, and the film had split an inch from the reel all the way down a few inches from the other one. Either way, I had witnessed one of the worst things ever to be associated with a children's cartoon, or I'm just off my nut. I will never know. Well, I remember it though, suggesting it was real. If this was made by some sick person as a joke, I'd give him a thumbs up for making something that seemed so real. Like if it was actually part of the series. After all, the video had never cut out like it did on the tape, unless if it had been originally been recorded. But now I think of it, since the show always covers real topics, could this be a real episode that they only aired once? Like they did it on DW's bird dying, but never one on this kind of subject matter or anything, even if it was just a real episode. I almost hope it is, intrigued by when I want to see it again, to prove myself that I'm not going mad. And that, my little pretties, was Arthur, the Death of Grandma, a Arthur Lost episode creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? A really good creepypasta, to be completely honest, actually. This is actually one of the best creepypastas that I have ever seen in Arthur. Now, I do know Arthur is actually one of the best creepypastas I've ever seen. Like, the best one I could definitely say was, Arthur, the Death of Grandma. Yes, I have seen some other episodes. I'm just going to say this right now. I really do have to say, this was actually a pretty good creepypasta. I'm gonna be completely honest. I really do like how the concept itself just went, amazing. The fact that, the story went out, how it all went out. Basically, I could definitely say was that this is actually very believable. Like, it's like if it was like a real Arthur episode, and it was just really well made. Like, the person who made it did a really good job, sitting there, taking his or her time, reading, writing this story. It's just amazing what this story did. Now, yes, if you're gonna ask me, I have watched Arthur as a kid. I used to watch that show tons of times as a young kid, and to be completely and utterly honest, I really do like how this show went out. It was actually really amazing and well made. I definitely gotta say, I really do like, Arthur as a kid. Arthur was a really good show when I was a young kid growing up, and to be completely and utterly honest, I actually found this story to be rather amazing. With the fact of that being said, it was just amazing. I love how, this whole story went out. It was a great concept. Like, the grammar of this story was really good, along with the sentence structuring, the paragraph structuring, everything about it was flat out amazing. It was very believable, too. Now, I do know some cliches were incorporated in this, but this was made back before cliches became a big problem with the creepypasta community. Well, this was made before then. I don't really remember when this was made, maybe 2003, 13, or 14. Maybe around there, maybe it was written around there. I don't know. But I could definitely say it was a really great concept with this. So I could definitely say. Now, Arthur the Death of Grandma, I love this story. Like, I remember I read this story last year, I believe. And to be completely honest, I really do like The Death of Grandma. I actually found this story to be rather made and well done. Now, I did first hear this on Andal's channel back in, I think, 2017 or something, and then I heard of this story again on the Shadow Reader's channel, his old channel before it was terminated, and then I listened to it again on his new channel when he re-uploaded. And I could definitely say I do know some people have read this story already, so I could definitely say that right now. I've heard of this in some other stories as well. I've listened to other people narrate this, and it was a really well made story. I really do like this episode of Arthur. It was a pretty well made story. So, I think I kind of already went ahead and, explaining, what I liked about this and stuff. It's actually a pretty good story. Now, this is actually one of the best ones I've ever seen. I've seen some other ones that were good, but this one was pretty good as well. I really do have to say. I'm going to sit here and say right now that I really loved watching Arthur as a kid. And to be completely honest, and I'm sure most of you guys can all agree with me on this, the newer episodes of Arthur are just, well, they're just not that great. I think the Arthur episodes up to 2012 or maybe 2010 around there, that's when the show started to go downhill. Like, I know some of the newer episodes are alright, but unfortunately nowadays they're just not that good. So, yeah, I'm just going to be completely and utterly honest right now that, with that being said, Arthur was a good show as a kid. And I'm sure most of you guys can all agree that the show nowadays is just, I could just say it's just not that great. The newer episodes are just not that great anymore, so I'm just being completely honest. But yeah, with that being said, I do actually found this story to be rather amazing, well done, and it's a pretty good story. So, I'm sure most of you guys probably have heard of this story, and if you guys want to narrate it, feel free to narrate it. I would really like to hear your thoughts on this. So, what do I think of this story? It's a really good story. I'm definitely going to be honest. It was well made, really well detailed, and I actually found this story to be rather enjoyable. So, with that being said, yeah, if I had to say one thing I wasn't really crazy on, well, not really crazy, but the one thing I could definitely say that was kind of a little bit of an issue would have to be, I think you could definitely say, what was it? Oh yeah. If I have to say one thing, would it have to be, it's a little confusing, seeing Arthur, doing the things that he did, being the crap out of Kate and stuff like that. I don't understand why Arthur would, go out of his way and sit there and, do all the things that he did. That's just a question I'm not sure. It's a little confusing. That's the only thing I could definitely say, is that it's a little confusing. That's the main issue I could definitely say with well, not really main issue, it's not a major one. It's just a bit of an issue with the story. Like, not a big one, but it's just a kind of a minor thing. I'm just gonna say that right now. So, with that being said, I'm just gonna say that right now that this story was good. I'm not gonna lie, it was a pretty good show. I watched it when I was a kid. But yeah, but with that being said, it's a really good story. I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't do so. So, I guess I kind of already explained what I liked about this story. There was only maybe one or two things I wasn't crazy on, but with that being said, I'm gonna say this right now. This is simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story would have to be a 9.5 out of 10. I'm giving it a 9.5 out of 10 because it was very well detailed, really well made, and I do like how this episode, it has the believability of it, and it's just really well made in detail. So I could definitely say the story did pretty good. Not gonna lie, it did a pretty good job. But yeah, it's a little confusing at parts of it. The parts of it that, had Arthur sitting there doing all the things that he did to his family. So, with that being said, I don't know who the original author is, so yeah, I'm gonna leave it as anonymous for now. If I do find out who the original author of this story is, I'll be sure to, give him a proper credit. Once I do find out who the original author is, I'll give him or her proper credit. So, to the author who wrote this story, you did amazing. I could definitely say this was a really well made story. So, with that being said, what did you guys think about this story? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload so that you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.